All right, welcome back to another episode of Less Kevin, More Technology. Kevin is on vacation this week, so we're going to be running the show solo from the Les and Kevin perspective. But we have phenomenal guests, and the topic we're going to talk about today is this whole concept of digital marketing, where it's going, and also a little bit of a generational piece to it, because I really want to explore that part. So on our show, we have Marisa DeAngelis. So Marissa, say hello.
Hi, guys.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back for a little brief intro. And then Rob Johnson, president and founder of Worldwide Operations for Wayne Media Group.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why I'm excited about this episode is that for me, learning about digital marketing, selling in the new world, if you will, this is all brand new for me. And I find it energizing. I find it exciting. Some of it I find difficult to comprehend, but I'm doing my very best to learn it and go with the flow. Rob's a pro. You know, this is his world. And Marissa is the up-and-coming professional. And so, Marissa, do a little, give us a little intro, history, who you are, where you work, how long you work, because I absolutely find it fascinating that you're a 4-year vet in digital marketing for a ginormous organization here in Detroit, and you're just out of college.
Yeah.
I think it's an incredible story.
Yeah. So I graduated from Grand Valley in 2021 spring with a double major in marketing and accounting, which is like the weirdest combination ever. Obviously, I stuck with the marketing side, but yeah, I did DECA. I don't know if you know what that is in high school. So it's like a business club. I know Kevin's son Grant also did it later.
Yeah.
That kind of really got me started into marketing. I always thought I was going to do accounting because that's like what my family did.
Right.
You know, and then you go to the big four and then move on. And so I did DECA. I loved marketing. After my senior year of high school, I did an internship with Livingston Educational Services Agency, and I ran their social media, and I loved it. So
how old were you at that time?
I was just turned 18 because my birthday's in May, so I just turned 18. I did it like the whole summer after I graduated high school before I went to college, which was super cool. It was super small. There were like 10 people there. I learned a ton because it's very like educational services. So that was a really cool experience.
So did they look at you and like, oh my God, she can do everything. She's our social media.
Yeah, so it was all like a lot of older ladies, and they were so sweet, but they were like, oh my gosh, it was me and one other girl, and then the other girl kind of helped with like the website. And yeah, they like just wanted younger people like in the area to do it. And so that was kind of my first time. I was like, this is really fun.
Nice.
I like this.
So accounting started to move a little bit more into that.
Yeah. And then I went to Grand Valley and I like started meeting with my advisors, and Grand Valley's business school is really cool in the fact that you can double major in 2 different business degrees, which most schools like you can do a minor, but it's really hard to like double major. That. Yeah. So then I didn't declare it, I think, my freshman year. I knew I wanted to do marketing, and then I was thinking double majoring with accounting, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And so then after my freshman year, like I was getting towards the middle and the end, I like called my dad because I was like, I need to work this summer. I don't really want to do like a restaurant. Like I want to try and do something. And so
you didn't want to say, would you like fries with that?
Yeah, I did that in high school. I mean, that's great learning, but I really wanted to do something. I think I kind of got spoiled with getting to do an internship before I went to college. So then we had family friends that had all interned. It was Quicken at the time. Yeah. And so I applied, I reached out to a recruiter, and then I got assigned in our marketing for servicing team. So once a client closes a mortgage with us, and we service the life of their loan, like I became an intern that year.
Got it.
I met a bunch of people. I was obsessed with it. I remember my first day, I'd never driven like downtown Detroit, other than like a Tigers game. And I worked that, and then I got asked to come back.
Nice.
And then after that, I'd finished 2 internships, and our CMO I'm really close with because he started right around the time I did. He kind of was like, you need to go, like, I know you love Rocket. You need to go try and see something else because as like you're young, I was 20 years old at that point. He's like, you have 2 years of experience knowing the culture, like go figure out something else. And so then I went and did an internship in accounting. I did an internship with Deloitte, and that was awesome too. I'll say I learned more in those couple of months than I ever have because it's a totally different world. Public accounting, like you're learning every aspect of business as opposed to one. And then I finished my internship in March of 2020 with Deloitte, and then COVID happened, and the whole world changed. So my team reached out to me again at Rocket and was like, hey, like we're going to be virtual. I know you still have to take summer classes to make up for your internship. Would you like to still intern with us?
So they invited you back for year 3.
For year 3.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm like the world's longest intern. That's what they say. They're like 3 years, but it's just because I started young. So I interned with them all of that summer. And because everything was still COVID and all my classes had gotten moved online, we were going through a big rebrand at the time. And I was really helping with that. We were switching from Quicken Loans to Rocket Mortgage. They extended me my whole senior year. I worked 40 hours and then did school after, which was like, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So like, that's kind of COVID was horrible in so many ways, but it really helped me like excel my career. And I think that's kind of what solidified for me. Like I only had worked in the summers. And so like getting to see all the quarters and like the business full year round was amazing and like made me really love it.
So we were talking a couple of months ago about you got recognized for a 4-year
Yeah, I'm technically 4-year tenure at the company. Like I pay, and I've only been full time since April 26, 2021. So only like a year.
But that's cool. They're recognizing that time.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. But I think that's like one amazing thing that I look at companies and like internships is like they make you feel that, and that's like an enticing. Like I was coming out of college and like had 3-year technically tenure. I only really worked consecutive 1 year, but like I knew the culture, and it was like I wasn't starting from scratch, which I think is something really awesome that we do and invest in those interns younger.
So here's a funny thing from a generational approach. When I was growing up, an intern meant you were in medical. You know, you were an attorney as a doctor.
Yeah.
Now there's internships for everything, and they're very, very valuable.
Yeah.
You know, the feedback I've, gotten from folks that have taken internships, it gives them a real world flavor.
Absolutely. And I think, I'll say this, like I learned more in those internships than I ever did it in school. I think accounting was a little different because you really need to know all the process in the end. But like for marketing, like
Did you get paid for your internship?
Yeah.
So let me try
Which is also the difference. Yeah, we got paid great too.
So let me try to get this straight. You paid the school, but the internship paid you. And it was better when they were.
It was better when they were paying me. Yeah. But
it's kind of funny.
You have to, so that I always am like pushing for people to do those. We are obviously a very large company, so I'm like, if you need, like, I promote our internship program so much because I think it's so awesome, and it like put me kind of steps ahead of other people my age in that spot because I already knew the culture and how the company worked.
That's awesome. So, Rob, I saw on your website you have got a summer intern.
We have 2 of them.
2 of them.
Yeah.
Right. And good program for you?
Yeah, so we had an intern, so out of the blue, last year I got a phone call, I think it was on a Sunday, and it was Madison, who's now our creative strategist.
Right.
She called me and she's like, hey, I'm looking for, an internship. I got 1 year left of school. So she came on for the summer.
Very nice.
Crushed it.
Yeah.
And then said, hey, I'm going back to school, but I can still work part-time. So she worked part-time as she wrapped up her last year of school and just did phenomenal. And then she graduated in May of this year, came back.
Sweet.
Worked full-time. And then I was like, well, that worked well. So then I had 2 more interns. So we have a creative intern and then a sales intern.
We've got an internship in our sales and marketing group, and I love the fresh ideas, to bring into the company. So there's innovation that's coming that way from a company perspective, but also from the perspective of the intern. It can be a very good experience.
Yeah.
Now, conversely, it's also a thing where they can find out, hey, I don't like to do this. Maybe this isn't where my, career goes.
Absolutely.
That's an awesome thing too.
I think that's what I learned with accounting. Like, it's a great career, but like for me, my brain, like my fire is, when I'm more the creative side. And like, I'm so happy I did that internship because I learned so much.
Cool.
But it also taught me like where my strengths are. And I think that's just as important.
It is. So let's talk about that creative side.
Yeah.
What is happening in digital marketing? Because it seems to me like every day I get an email that says, go here, this is new, or this is the hot thing, or, sign up for this email, or blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's like inundation.
Yeah, it's wild because it is just changing all the time. And I think like as we get more technology, like we know so much. And like, it's funny, we talk about like where the line is of how much you know about your consumer. And it's kind of recent. Apple updated their privacy policy. And so now like if you notice, you'll open apps and they ask you that you want them to track or not. Yeah. And so people think, oh, if I say don't track or if I allow it, it'll be less. But actually like if you hit allow, like they're allowed to track way more, which like sounds scary, but no, like way more than you used to because like you're technically giving that consent.
All right. So I feel like you're letting us in on the dark secret here because all I do is I just click yes.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
What am I doing to myself?
Well, I think it's just building a profile. I mean, I think the biggest change in digital marketing is CRMs now and like a Salesforce and stuff. We work with Salesforce at our work is like, they build these profiles from all these different things and like Google will use it, Adobe Analytics, and it's just taking your behavior from so many different aspects of your life and like they can build kind of a profile about you, which sounds pretty Big Brother, but from a marketing side, it's awesome because it allows you to make more meaningful like work and target people at a point in their life instead of just shooting a dart blindly.
So for me, a CRM, like in our industry, it's about, putting in our contacts, writing notes, setting reminders to call somebody back, that kind of thing. A very manual process to attempt to keep the salespeople organized.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about is a whole new realm.
Yeah. It's building audiences in that CRM. So it is still manual in the fact that you put it, but like we have teams that build these journeys and it's like, if this client hits this trigger from this email, we'll send them this next email. And it's much more like,
does a human do that, or is it an AI equation that's looking at the behavior?
It's a mix. Like we have our team that like they obviously build out it and code it, but then the like AI kind of like takes it and like will automatically fire and stuff. But we have someone who is like thinking of how we should build the journey out, and then obviously like we design the emails and design the social media and design that like will cause those triggers. But I would say it's a mix, but there's still like has to be that like physical strategy to think of like what we're trying to say.
So the term journey means like from the time somebody clicks to the time they buy.
Yes. Yeah. So like we have hundreds of journeys like in our world because like where you're at, because you could click on an ad and then never actually do anything. And like we rate like leads kind of is what we would say, like when they become an enter, and like you can see like if they're likely to do whatever it is you're asking. And then you can build out journeys for like, if you just are trying to get them to just stay engaged and like, so they'll keep getting like weekly emails, but then there's high grade quality people who you're like, they're on the cusp. They're going to do what we want them to do. So you're going to fire them a lot more emails. And so these journeys are like, there can be decisions, you can A/B test, you can do all of that. And it's just kind of like based on segmenting audiences, which is crazy. Yeah,
it is. But you're a substantial organization.
Yeah.
With real dollars, big dollars at play. And so Rob, you're the president, and you work with dollars. I mean, what do you think about that? Like in the SMB space, is there a play like that there or no?
There is, but it's becoming less and less important. And I think larger corporations are going to follow this trend as well. Is that in 2016, when the Cambridge Analytica scandal came out from Facebook, people recognized all of this.
What is that? You said that pretty damn quick.
I'll walk you through it. So basically what happened was...
It was over my head or under my knees, one of the two. But
basically, everything you're speaking about with, we call it a hidden docket. Basically, it's a hidden CRM that is not public facing, that people collect information on. So, for example, there was a really great documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma.
You approving of this?
Yeah. Oh, that changed my life, that documentary.
Really? Yeah, it's really good because what it does is it walks you through this hidden docket and how companies use this information. And what's happening is a really interesting exit from the marketplace of big data, because people are finding that you can make more personalized messages to target an audience, more so than targeting an audience based on this existing data. So what happened with Cambridge Analytica was Facebook was taking all of this information from their users, and it was largely with political campaigns, and they were selling it. Well, they said they weren't selling it, but they were giving it to a agency, and that agency was then using that data to inform political campaigns.
I see.
And that was a huge scandal. And that caused, Zuckerberg to have to go to Capitol Hill and talk about how Facebook uses their data. And basically it caused Apple to do this whole reformation on privacy. And that's why Apple, in my opinion, is, hands down the best company in the world because they manage data so well and they care about privacy at such a deep level. They didn't care about burning a bridge with Facebook when they launched the new iOS because that gave people the ability to just stop all tracking.
Got it.
And let them choose.
So how do I know if I'm stopping or not stopping? Because I'm probably not stopping.
I mean, you can look in your settings, and then every time you open, like you could say ask app not to track. Like there's a lot. And then in your settings, I think it like
privacy settings.
Your privacy settings you can go through and see.
Yeah,
a lot of options
and you can
there
see
when
what's
I click.
tracking you. And for me, and this is what, if you look at companies, there's basically, and this is a very long philosophical conversation, so I'm going to try and make this super brief because no one wants that. Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of love it. It's the line.
Maybe we need to get you a shot of bourbon, Robin.
Right. Calm me down a little. No, the two lines that you can take is one, you can take the big data approach where you look at a user, you look at their data, their income, their travel history, where they're going to, and you can market towards that. This is geofencing. This is IP targeting. This is all of, what we call like the nerd marketing. People hate that statistically. People don't like being tracked. People don't like
when they're made aware that it's happening.
Exactly. Well, like when you walk into Walmart and you're like, oh, hey, we noticed that you're at this store. Here's our specials. Like if you have the Walmart app and you're getting tracked, that's what it will do.
Right.
People statistically hate that.
Yeah.
What they like better is attaching themselves to a brand for personal reasons, whether it's the CEO, whether it's the product offering, whether it's the suite of services. That's what people want, is a relationship, even if it is long distance in nature, with a company. And they want that built on credibility and authority. They don't want it built on, all of the hidden docket data that someone's collecting on them.
Okay, so you guys are, both of you, what I hear, and check me on this, what I'm hearing is B2C type stuff.
Yeah.
Does this play in a B2B space?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think he kind of jumped on that, and we kind of are following that approach much more B2B because like you told the story about how someone thought you were a bot because you were reaching out on LinkedIn, because that's what we're so used to. And I think that in the B2B world I work in, it is that much more authentic. You have to design messages that make the people feel like you're actually reaching out for meaningful work. And obviously, like with bigger corporations, you're going to be reaching out to a lot of people, but curating a way to make that messaging be relevant and personal and not just feel like, hi, I saw you on LinkedIn at Rocket Central, or you get those spam emails. Like you have to.
I get a
stray away
bazillion.
from that. Yeah, and then you just tune it out. It's just white noise. You have to find a new way, especially in B2C. I'm not sorry, B2B, like because that's all you get all day in that world.
And it's difficult because it's a lot like dating, and there's basically, and I'll give you the example. There's basically three avenues you can take in dating, right? You can be the guy that's just swiping right and just trying to, fill up the queue with volume. You can be the guy who's trying way too hard and sending very long, elaborate messages. It's like, wow, this guy reeks of desperation. Yes. Or you can be the person in the middle that finds an actual practical, caring approach to.
So you talk to your wife about this?
Which part?
Well, you guys were
this
dating.
Analogy?
This analogy.
No, because when we started dating, I was an absolute idiot because I was 19 and knew nothing.
That's basic male pattern. Right
100%. So, but that's the thing though, and that's why I hate LinkedIn and what people are doing on the marketing side there, because you can tell when someone's trying too hard. Hey, Rob, I noticed that. No, you didn't. You didn't notice anything. You sent this to 48 other people. Yeah. And you said the exact same line and you replaced the first name.
Yeah.
Don't lie, because it's super transparent. And then you have the other people that are just bulk sending out
hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah, they don't even care. They don't even care about getting the first name right.
Right.
And then you got the people in the middle that are like, hey, Les, I saw that at UTEC you guys did an event. I watched the video. I thought the video sucked. Yeah. I think I can come in there. I think I can come in there and make that video way better. When do you have time to chat?
I get an email a couple of times a week, and I love it because it says undefined.
Yeah.
And so they have, and I've never canceled the subscription because I love it. It just says, hey, undefined.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing with us is obviously like you want to let people feel like they're deciding. So like now in our world, obviously we're mortgage experts, like a lot of our partners work. So we are kind of sending content over that isn't just sales pitching. Like we do newsletters about like what's going on in the market in the world because people want to know that, and it
want to be educated.
It builds that trust because we're, hey, Les, you know, like here we know that you're gonna obviously this is going to affect your clients. Like these are some tips that our bankers and market people are using. Read this. Let us know if you want to chat more about it. And that isn't like you're not selling them to work with us, but it's just giving information to build that trust because there is that. After all of that lack of trust.
So we chatted a little bit earlier about your role. And part of your role is this concept of FOC.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that stands for Family of Companies.
Yep.
There's like over 100 of them, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah. And so it's not, you're not just working in the mortgage world, right? You're working across a spectrum of different companies. And I know a few of them. But they're everywhere from, athletic equipment, building, to mortgage, investment advice, all that stuff. So do the same principles apply across the board? Or do you say, and I'm not talking about tactical steps. I mean, I'm talking about principles.
Yeah.
Are there overarching principles?
Yeah, so that's actually why. So I technically work for Rocket Central, which is the agency to represent all of those. I mean, we have Rocket Loans, Rocket Auto, Rocket Solar just launched, Rocket Mortgage. So the reason we did that is because that way it's the same principle and tone for all of these companies. Because obviously, like, it's like a Amazon. You go there to get a bunch of stuff, right? So we have all these companies, like people need a personal loan, people need a car, they're eventually going to need a house. So like keeping that ecosystem and that tone the same is like vital. So that principle is the same for all of them. And that's why they took us out of just being Rocket Mortgage Marketing and put us into Rocket Central. So we're now an agency type, I guess. I mean, we only do internal stuff, but like to help provide that same principle across all of those companies because it is a weird world. And we're one of the few moving to more of a fintech space, than just mortgages.
So what's your definition of fintech?
So I don't know. I think it's changing. So like before I would think of fintech as like, you think of like those the financial budget apps and all that stuff. But I think it's now more just any financial decision in your world should be a fintech company now because we're in such a technological world. And I know that that's something like my leaders, they've always like, they try to be once, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's now, if you're dealing with money in any way, it should be fintech. It should be user-friendly and it should connect to your other apps and all of that because that's the world we're in now. People very rarely are going into a bank and getting their loan like that.
It just seems like more and more organizations are tying their company to that term.
Yeah.
Whereas a few years back, it was if you were a software that did a credit check, that a bank or a mortgage used, a company.
That's the fintech.
That was fintech. Now it seems that there's even lifestyle companies that are.
But I think that's also the problem too, is like we have to redefine the word because I think it is now like stretching to like fintech was the new hit thing. And now everyone technically, like, I mean, my Chase app, like that could be fintech. All my money's on there. It's an app. Yeah.
So one of the things that have rocketed the, no pun intended, maybe intended, the copier world is the copiers are now fintech devices. Yeah. Because you scan in your application for the mortgage. So they're all part of fintech now. We're on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, everything's evolving. So the reason why, going back to Apple, the reason why Apple's so successful is they recognize the value of an ecosystem. Rocket products also recognize the value of an ecosystem. Keeping people in one store that can provide them with everything is far more valuable than having partners. Apple does not have partners.
So this is an interesting concept to me because a lot of times, like I'll go through Meijer, right? So the people who are running the vegetable area run their business different than the people who run the clothing area, who run it differently than the people that run the butcher, and yet they're all under the same umbrella.
Right.
Is that kind of what I'm hearing? I know it's a terrible analogy, but it's the best I can come up with.
I think it's more so like you have an ethos at the top. So like I don't want to speak on Rocket. You work there, I don't. But like just from what I know from an outsider's perspective, you have an ethos that drives every single individual unit of that company, and they all need to operate on the same ethos and have the same mission, which is keeping people inside of those walls. Yeah. That way they don't need to go anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we have that overall, like our culture is what we call it, because we're very into those terms. And we try to keep, even though they are different areas, like the branding, you'll see, it still feels the same. You'll get the red and the black and and it's like keeping that. And although you're different areas, it doesn't feel like you're straying too far away, like even if you're just getting a loan. So
is branding culture?
I think branding's a part of culture. I don't know if everyone would say that. I mean, our culture has been around for 35 years since Dan Gilbert started the company. Like we have isms. We have 35 isms that like represent who we are. But I think your brand becomes your culture because that's what everyone sees. So like anyone who says, "Oh, our culture is different than our brand," you know what I mean? Like they're going to see your logo and your colors and your ads more. And I think that if it reflects your culture, then you're doing it right. It should be a part of it.
More often than not, too, your culture is going to end up impacting the brand more than the brand impacting the culture, if that makes sense. Because what you have going on inside your walls is ultimately what's going to represent. So when you think, Nike, if you look at, from a headline perspective, you might think, wow, sweatshops and overseas. Yeah. And even though that's not the culture that they're trying to build, sometimes the culture that is presented is ultimately what impacts what that company is.
Got it.
Yeah. I mean, and you can say, oh, our mission is this, this, and this, but it's also like the outside perspective, people are going to say, and that hurts more than.
Does that translate to actually what you're doing?
What you're doing. You have to.
Huh. So we talked about the internship. So that's kind of like the past.
Yeah.
This thing with Apple, I mean, that's really kind of anchored both of your conversations about the present. What do you see for the future? What's coming down?
I think, like kind of what you were highlighting, I think it's just going to be authentic is what people want now. They want to feel like you understand them, like you know them. And I think that we're switching in with these privacy is like marketing is now going to be much more tailored. Like TikTok is a perfect example. I know that ages me, but like people love TikTok.
Wait a minute. How does this age you? What are we talking?
Because I feel like TikTok, it's so, like that's all I use now. But that wasn't even around. Like TikTok was like a dancing app like 2 years ago. But TikTok is like, people love it because it's so real and you can relate to people and there's not the filters and like the idea of perfection in every way. And I think that that's kind of what people are relating to now in all companies. Like you want to be targeting messaging that feels personal and feels authentic. It feels like, oh, you're actually doing it because you understand instead of just doing it to feel like an ad. People don't like ads that feel like ads anymore.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And if they want ads, if there are ads, it needs to be ads that are actually personal, and that's where that big data docket comes in to, find, new moms or, first time home buyers or renters. And then, to answer your question on where things are moving, I think things are moving much more into the niche than they are into the broad because people care more about that. And that's why I've invested so much money into podcasting is because podcasting is much more about the quality of the number of people that are listening rather than the raw number.
Okay.
I've said it 1,000 times. I'd rather have 500 dedicated listeners than 500,000 that don't give a damn, because those 500 are going to move a lot more of the needle for me professionally than the 500K. So things are moving a lot more to the niche, a lot more to the custom, and that's where it's going to stay.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's forming like a smaller audience. Like we're seeing like even with ours, because we send emails to really like a bunch of different kinds, but to really niche groups now. And that is much more effective because like if you just segment them into big like first time home buyers, that's like that doesn't mean anything because you could be a first time home buyer for so many. But if you're hitting those specific aspects of your life and targeting your messaging, you're going to go miles ahead. And that's why podcasting, that's the biggest thing. Like people might not have the same, like you mentioned Joe Rogan. Like Joe Rogan has a ton, but a lot of other podcasters that I would say are just as successful have a much smaller niche and they're loyal. And that's loyalty is more than just consumption.
Kevin and myself have people that send in fan letters.
There you go.
We have a fan club. I love that.
Yeah. They're 2 girls under the age of 10, I think.
Yeah. I hope they skipped that FKNG episode.
Yeah,
and that's where it's all going though. Is everyone wants to be heard, and we've had this big social media renaissance over the last 10 years, and people are getting really tired of the drive-by, the headline. Everyone wants to be a lot more niche, and TikTok's not the answer. TikTok's going to be gone in 5 years, in my assessment. It's going to get bastardized and replicated over to Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Those are going to be the big 3. And then TikTok's going to be absorbed into that. It's going to be used as what it is, which is a great platform, but it's not going to be, there's no longevity in it.
So what is a small business like us that, I mean, we have phenomenal customer service. We've got data points that, point to that. We have world-class solutions and equipment, but we're a traditional business. We have salespeople, going up and down the street, knocking on doors and, stuff like that. I mean, with what you two are saying, is that I almost think it could become more of a viable approach, maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it's just, showcasing that. I think, you need to, the sales, you have to put it out there in a way for people to consume and understand it and be like, oh, yeah, play that relatable, old-fashioned. Yeah, a podcast, but, more, I totally agree with what you say about TikTok because I think, that style is going to be integrated. But I think that showing that, that'll remind people oh yeah, the old, you know what I mean? I think you putting yourself out there in a way that is the more relatable and targeting those smaller groups, that's going to reach more audiences in a way. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
How long have you known Mr. Van Kannel?
Since I was a baby. I don't know. I remember Grace and I used to play sports when we were little, but forever. Yeah.
So we do need to get a video of him on TikTok dancing. I just want to.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
We're gonna make you can make that happen.
But one thing
I can try.
One thing I wanted to say, Les, is there's a really big industry right now for people to say, hey, this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible for an outsider to come into a business and say, here's what you absolutely need. A good consultant is one that's going to listen to what you're doing and make the recommendation. So to your point, a sales force may be outdated for one company and it may be excellent for another. A lot of it's how it's executed because social media or digital marketing or ads might hit really well. I'll give you an example. I have 2 remodeling companies I represent, or I guess one builder, one remodeler. 2 completely different strategies work for those companies. And you would think that, wow, we can just drag and drop this strategy over here. And it doesn't work. Because every company has such a different DNA and a different operating protocol. It needs to be custom across the board.
That's a super good point because in our business, we get emailed every day that says, hey, we're a consultant in your industry and we've been able to, increase sales 35%. And we do it by A, B, C, D, and E.
Yeah, they're full of it.
Yeah, sign up.
And that's the thing. It's what you need to say is, here's the consultative method. Here's the questions we've asked. Yeah. Here's success we've had. It might not correlate to you, but we want to have the discussion. That's a much more authentic approach, and it's much more likely to get a meeting.
You agree with that?
Yeah, I think too. And I think even being in the same industry, each person runs it differently. So I think you have to look at what makes you guys unique and what your customers like about you.
Right.
And when you're talking to that group, be like, this is what we're working, this is what we're struggling with. Because what's working for you might not be working for another company, but a different thing that you're struggling with might not be. And that's where the key is. I think it's unique to everyone and finding out what your strengths are and where you need to work on. And that's how you become much more effective, is highlighting those strengths and then reaching out and to people that your weaknesses are their strengths in that spot.
Yeah. Valid input. I'm looking at the clock. We've been on for over half hour. This is going fantastic.
No, it's tremendous.
So, so with that, Marissa, where do you see your career going and, things along that line, your future?
It's funny. It's Personally, yeah. I think I'm kind of going through a big shift right now where I've been pretty B2C and I'm really moving into the B2B space, which I think there's a lot of potential. We're working on a lot of things externally, offering our mortgage as a service, which is
cool.
Really crazy, cool, different because mortgages are expensive to do. And I think kind of really leaning into that space. I love the consulting side more than anything else. I love being able to talk about our company and our brand and why I love it and helping others work with that and help finding that align and kind of it's a puzzle to me. So I think that side, much more than anything, moving into consulting leadership is really where
that's
I
awesome.
See it going, which I would not have thought that. I thought it was going to be just the creative emails, but I think there's a strategy and a creativeness and working with other companies and figuring out, what works for us, what works for them, and targeting each message differently. That's my job all day is how certain partners, clients respond is so different than ours, and we have to kind of try and find a new way.
Yeah, and that gets you energized and gets you the juice to go. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to wrap up. Question for you before we have our toast. What's your favorite bourbon?
My favorite bourbon is FKNG, of course.
For kings, not
For
gods.
kings, not gods.
A toast.
Cheers. Thank you guys so much for
To
having
you, sir.
me.
Likewise.
Thank you very much.